Hello there, this is the Shadow Ranger, and I'm here to make a response to Mr. Lucid LJ and Dally X Man. They did a response to my video about double standards, so this is a response to their response. It's gonna be short. I'm gonna try to keep it short. I try to keep them all short, but I never managed to. Okay. Mainly my responses is I think you failed to understand what exactly that I'm saying is the double standard. Okay, I'm not saying that I agree that some of the stuff was good. I'm saying that only one company gets shit for doing things. Okay, let me talk about it. First off, I'm kind of going in reverse order here. Talking when you respond to what I'm saying about comedy. Okay, I can get it could be a matter of opinion. If you think that Santino is funny, but you think that Eric Young isn't funny, that's okay. That's a matter of opinion. I'm not gonna argue with you on that. That's a matter of opinion. I personally find Santino to be very funny, and I find Eric Young to be funny too. I'm not talking about what's funny and what isn't. What I'm saying is TNA isn't even allowed to do comedy. That's what I'm saying. If they do anything comedic, everybody shits on it. You know, and Santino was just one example. You know, there's Santino, there's, you know, Hornswoggle, Dance Offs, Kali Kiss Cam. You know, I think, you know, I mentioned that whole thing about the whole Hornswoggle and the Swagger Eagle on having a match on SmackDown, and give me a link to one YouTube video of somebody ranting about how dumb that was. I go to different websites. I listen to several different wrestling radio shows a week. I've yet to hear one person talk about how dumb that it was and bash WWE for doing that. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you just feel like one guy is funny and one guy isn't, that's fine. There's nothing I can't argue with you on that. That's kind of my point, though. Is TNA's not even allowed to do comedy. If they even do anything funny, everybody shits on it. Because they do anything funny. Okay. Okay, and the thing about the veterans. Alright, you guys completely misunderstood what the double standard was that I'm pointing out here. So I'm going to try and explain it again. I too would rather see Booker T, Kevin Nash, and Sting show in WWE. I also think they've done all the feuds that they can do in TNA, and there are plenty of fresh matches and feuds that I would want to see them do in WWE. So let's be clear here. I also would prefer to see Sting, Kevin Nash, Booker T in TNA. I also wanted the 22111 promo to be Sting, and I was disappointed that it wasn't. Okay. The double standard that I'm talking about is the double standard of the three men. How we say one thing about them when we're going to WWE, when we think they're going to WWE, we say a different thing about them when we think they're going to TNA, but in both ways we make it so that TNA is the bad guy. That's what I'm saying. No matter what it is, we say TNA was stupid for doing it. Either way, that's what I'm saying. When we thought that Booker T and Kevin Nash and Sting were coming back to TNA, everybody said they shit on the storyline. I don't mind that you shit on the storyline. That's not a problem. If you don't want to see Main Event Mafia back, that's fine. I also did not want to see Main Event Mafia back. I didn't want to see Main Event Mafia either. That's not the point. The thing is that annoyed me was what the IWC said about the three men, not TNA. The three men. They said they're old, they're washed up, they're useless, and they have nothing to offer. That's what they said for. And TNA is stupid for bringing them back. They said because they're old, washed up, they have nothing to offer. TNA is stupid for bringing them back. Yet, when Booker T shows up at the Royal Rumble, he gets a nice pop. Kevin Nash shows up at the Royal Rumble, gets a nice pop. We see the 22111 promo, and everybody thought and wanted it to be Sting, including me. I also wanted it to be Sting. I thought it might be Sting. I wanted it to be Sting. Let's be clear on that. When we hear they're going to the WWE, now everyone turns around and says that they're legends and well-respected veterans and they have a lot to offer, and then they say TNA was stupid for not bringing them back. That's what is annoying me. That's the double standard I'm talking about. How is it that when they're coming to TNA, people say TNA is stupid for bringing them back, but then they go to WWE, everybody says TNA is stupid for not bringing them back? That's what I saw, and that's what annoyed me. That's what I saw. I listened to some of my wrestling radio shows, and everybody's talking about why didn't TNA re-sign these guys? Booker T and Diesel got the biggest pops at the Royal Rumble, so why did TNA let these guys go? Why did they not re-sign the two guys who got the biggest pop at the Royal Rumble? Alright, first TNA got bashed because they were bringing them back, and then TNA gets bashed for not bringing the guys back. That's what got on my nerves. That's what I'm talking about is the double standard. It's like we'll turn, the IWC will turn the story around in 50 different directions just to come to the conclusion that TNA bad. TNA is bad. TNA stupid. Whatever they have to do to be able to bash TNA, they'll do it. If the veterans come to TNA, they say the veterans are all washed up, have nothing to offer, and TNA stupid for bringing them back. If the veterans go to WWE, everybody says the veterans are great, and TNA is stupid for not bringing them back. I guarantee you, if The Rock was not the guest host of WrestleMania, and October came around, and The Rock came out on Impact and said he was going to be the guest host of Bound for Glory, people would shit on it. They would diss The Rock and call TNA stupid for bringing The Rock in. I have no doubt in my mind they would. I'm telling you, man, The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin could join TNA. People would shit on them and say TNA was stupid for hiring them. That's the double standard. Use the celebrity thing. Okay, let me clear this part up. I didn't have a problem with the Raw guest host. Okay, except when one of them would wrestle. But pretty much the Raw guest host, they would show up, hawk their shit, do a comedy segment with Santino, and leave. They show up, do a segment, and they go away. But I also didn't have a problem with JWoww. She showed up, she did one segment, and she left. Now, Dally X, man, you basically said that you didn't have you didn't like it either way. Then cool, you're not being double standards. I understand that not everybody feeling the standard. I'm just pointing out what I feel that I'm seeing from the majority of the IWC. My question is, how is it that JWoww shows up, does one segment, she leaves? One segment, one episode of Impact. My question is I'm trying to figure out how it is that got more hate from the IWC than a year of Raw guest host. Alright? JWoww wasn't screwing up the names of wrestlers and pay-per-views. She wasn't out there, freaking Summerfest. She wasn't talking about it's TNA Victorious Road and screwing up the names of pay-per-view. She wasn't getting names wrong. It wasn't Samoa John, and she wasn't screwing up names. She didn't have a match. She did one little segment with Cookie and she went away. We ain't heard shit from JWoww since. Now I heard they're gonna do some little thing where they might bring her back for a second little segment. We'll talk about that when it happens. All right. How is it that JWoww once got more hate than a year of Raw guest host? That's understand. Now if you like me and you didn't have a problem with either one, that's cool. If you like Dally X Man and you hate them both, that's cool too. But the majority of what I've seen from the IWC is acceptance of the Raw guest host, but shit on JWoww. I'm trying to figure out how does JWoww get more shit than all of that. That's what amazes me. And you talk about the fact that TNA spent $15,000 on her, okay, that you're assuming that all of the Raw guest hosts came for free. I find that really hard to believe. Yes, they got to plug their stuff, but Shaq didn't have anything to plug. You saying Shaq just did it for free? And by the way, didn't WWE pay a huge chunk of money to Floyd Mayweather to come do that match with Big Show? Now I know the storyline was they paid him $20 million. I know they didn't really pay him $20 million, but I guarantee you Floyd Mayweather costs way more than $15,000. I would bet good money that the total amount of money spent on those Raw guest hosts was way more than $15,000. They could have been paying them dudes 10 G's a pop. I mean, WWE can afford that more, and I understand they're a bigger company, got more money, they can afford it. But I'm saying, also I think this was the fault of TNA for not having some kind of non-disclosure agreement, because I guarantee you that when they paid Floyd Mayweather and all those Raw guest hosts to show up, they had Vince McMahon is smart enough to have non-disclosure agreements that say, hey, you can't tell how much we pay you. Alright, I think that is a fault. TNA really should have had Jay Wild sign some sort of non-disclosure agreement that says, hey, you can't tell anybody what you got paid. If the media gets word of what we're paying you, then the deal's off and you don't get jacked. That was their fault, and I'll blame them for that. You really should have made her sign a non-disclosure agreement that says, hey, don't tell anybody, you can't tell anybody what you got paid. Anyway, I think that's all I want to point out here. Again, how is it TNA? I'll reiterate. How is it that TNA got bashed for bringing Nash, Sting, and Booker back, but then they got bashed for not bringing them back? That's what I'm seeing. All I saw was people talking about how stupid. I go on Twitter, I type in that TNA Dixie. After the Royal Rumble, I see people bashing her for not bringing back Nash and Sting, talking about, man, they got the biggest pop. How did you not re-sign the guys who got the biggest pop at the Rumble? That's my thing. I too would rather see Sting, Nash, and Booker in the WWE. I think they've done all they can do in TNA, and there's really nobody in TNA that I'm really interested in seeing them face. But I heard the spoilers, supposedly Sting's coming back and doing something with the belt, doing some short-term thing with the belt. That's cool. We'll wait and see what happens, and I'll talk about it when it airs. I don't judge anything before I see it on TV. So, when the recently taped stuff airs, we can come back and have this conversation again. But until it airs, I don't talk about it. Alright, thank you both for your response. I appreciate feedback. I saw that in the title that was part 1, so I will await part 2 and respond to part 2. Thanks again for your response, and I hope y'all keep listening to my videos. This is the Shadow Ranger. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.